What you have here is, on two sides of polarity, they're both white light. What you call here the dark side doesn't mean blackness, okay? Lucifer, the name in itself, means the enlightened one, okay? The illuminated one, okay? What that represents is the energy of the light of knowledge. That is the expression of the white light of knowledge. There are two different kinds of white light that we're talking about here, all right? And this is a very, very critical understanding. The reason it's white light is because it's the entire spectrum. It contains all the information in there. All the colours together make up the white light. Alright? And for the beings that work with black light, they call it, they say, well, that contains all the spectrum in it. Well, black just doesn't reflect. It eats everything up. So it just doesn't reflect back the colours. That's what has the whole entire spectrum in there, okay? Okay, now on this side of the ledger we have the energy of white light, which is a lot of the New Age movement refers to, and they call it the light of God and all that sort of stuff, is what's known as the white light of conditional love. So that's really important that we understand this. So here you have the white light of knowledge, and on this side of the spectrum we have the white light of conditional love. Conditions apply with that energy. Okay? They're the ones that say, these guys are evil. To be a Christed being, you're outside of that. When you're a Christed entity, you understand that the beings on this side of the ledger are just as loved and adored and important as all the beings on this side of the ledger. Now what you refer to as the energy of evil is something different. The majority of that energy, the vast majority of that energy exists below the fifth. There's a veil there. Okay? What that is what you term evil. It exists on both sides, and it is the misuse of the white light of knowledge and the misuse of the white light of conditional love. That is what we refer to as evil. Okay? So while you have, and I don't mean to be derogatory by this statement, but I need to make it, what we call the white lighters out there, who sit there blasting away all these entities with all this energy, you've got to understand what you're playing with there. It's no different to getting a gun in this reality and shooting that guy because you reckon he's evil, or taking that person out because you reckon that's a murderer or a rapist or whatever, and indiscriminately just walking around taking these people out. It's really important that this understanding comes forward, that you can't just go blasting all these things, other life forms, with all this energy. It's really important. You're creating a lot of karma for yourself in other realities. Okay? I'm not saying that applies to absolutely everybody, because some are spiritual warriors and they're here to perform that role for certain reasons. But when you come across these books that teach you how to use all this light, it's important that we do it with respect. And we give these energies a chance to, you say to them, you know, please go, I'm going to have to use this energy. And you give them the opportunity. And then you gently start introducing that energy. You don't just go, like double barrel shotgun in one go. It's just not right. You're dealing with life. It's just on another level. Okay? So it's a very important understanding that we have that. That's understanding duality, and understanding when you're above that, both are equal, no matter what. Okay? And that's what it means to be a Christed being, to have that complete understanding and respect it. So George Bush, at the end of the day, I don't mean to pick on him, or let's go back in history, Adolf Hitler, for example, you know, benevolent beings, they play a very, very important role. They created a scenario that we're supposed to learn from. Supposed to learn from. Okay. White light of conditional love. Yeah, conditions apply because it's one side of polarity. You know how before I said it's waveform?
Yes.
Okay, that's Michael, and Lucifer. And that's, you know, from here down is this side. Because you can get the universe too, and you could draw it a different way. So you could draw it like that, if you wanted to, and draw that like that, and then you have your waveforms up here, and you have the Christed energy up here. Up here, the spectrum's like this. The frequency's really, 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 really fast, right? And as you get further down to here, the waveform is slower and more dense. Okay, so on this side you could say is Lucifer, and you can have Michael up here if you like. Or the other way around, doesn't matter. Both spectrums together, unified as one, is what unconditional love is. That's the golden light. Yes. Because we are a fractal of the universe, we are universal embodiment here. So what's important to understand, inside each and every one of you have access, right, and are gaining more and more access all the time. You have within you all the darkness of all the evil that exists in the universe is inside of you, and all the white love exists inside of you as well. Okay? Each and every one of us have that within us. And it's how we choose to use that energy, how we choose to express ourselves with that energy. That's the important thing. And this is what we're learning here. But the grand question is, who are we? Where do we all come from? The answer is quite simple, really, at the end of the day, is you are here in the third dimension, and when you get to the seventh dimension and below, there's physical reality. Beyond the seventh, you start to lose physical form and you go into more energy type of ways of existence. Where we come from is in another dimension, like the fourth or the fifth, on another planet, in another star system, and we've incarnated here, down into planet Earth, into the third dimension here, because what we are trying to do here, or not what we are trying to do, what we are achieving here is a universal embodiment, where any being on any level of reality can incarnate to one place. Any being that feels they have disconnected themselves or detached themselves from God can then incarnate and go through the life's experiences required to learn what it means to be in the image of God. A humane being. A being of compassion, of love, of understanding, of caring, all those qualities that make up and constitute a humane being. And once you do that, you get that understanding, that mindset back. Then you know you are at one with creation and you are no longer separate. You're no longer this small embodiment here existing in this reality and everything is out there. The understanding comes through that you are here, and yes, all you people are out there, but I'm all one with you. I'm a part of you. The same energy that runs through my atoms is the same energy that runs through your atoms. Therefore, we're all connected intimately at the core level. We're all the same, totally equal, all one. And that's what the big myth is. Who are we? Where do we come from? What are we doing here? As long as you have personal identity, you have ego. The moment you make the decision with intent to no longer exist at all, totally not exist at all anymore, you then relinquish yourself back to the source, that core energy that lies behind everything, and you are completely dissolved and you no longer exist at all. You cease to exist. And that your energy will then go back into the source, and then something else will form, but you will no longer exist. So it's a big call, it's a big sacrifice to do that. Okay? Very, very few beings do that. You've got to be very evolved to wish to not exist anymore. And we're not talking about dying. When you die, you still exist. I mean, it's just a genetic spacesuit to occupy this reality. So we're talking about your soul no longer existing. You know, beyond that level. Yeah. It's like samsara. If you take a drop of water and you take it and you drop it in the middle of the ocean, that water has lost its individual identity and then becomes part of the vast ocean. And that's the same, you'll become part of the vast ocean of energy. Yeah, you're totally gone on all levels of your existence. You are totally ceased to exist. You will never exist again. The source, the almighty source in there will then use your energy for something else, and you will no longer. Okay, so this is the universe. This is what we know as creation. When you read books and it talks about all the dimensional levels, this is what refers to as creation. Okay, now we're going to go to the next step. So this is the basic structure of our universe. Like I said, I've taken it and I've just expanded it out to let you understand that it's categorised. Now, just quickly, within each dimensional level, there is an infinite amount of overtones. It's a labyrinth within each one. Okay, we have all the What happens is any being that is beyond your reality, whether you're in the 8th and you're talking to someone in the 9th, for example, they will always present themselves to you with what you're comfortable with. They already know you intimately, okay, because they work with energy, and like your energy signature says so much about you, okay, and if they give you a name, that's what you're comfortable with, and that's why you've got some books. You can read different books and they all say different things about the same subject. For example, you can get information on the Council of Nine and you get all different scenarios happening with different authors. A lot of it overlaps and is true, and then you just got little differences. Well, you know, it's their individual perception and it's how it's been presented to them, and yeah. How we have guides, an example, there's beings, each individual incarnation here on Earth has an entourage around them, so to speak, okay? They monitor you all the time, this entourage. It's a very complicated thing. An incarnation here is not so straightforward and simple. There's a lot of work and preparation that goes into everyone incarnating here in this reality. And so therefore your entourage will present to you information which they know at the time emotionally, mentally, spiritually, where you're at, because if they present you with something that mentally you're not ready with, you're going to freak out. Emotionally you're not ready with, you're going to break down. And that's, yeah, everything gets monitored quite closely and gets presented to you when, you know, at your appropriate level when you're ready. And this is something that I've been working with myself, and, you know, why don't I get this any sooner, and why I'm so frustrated, and, you know, I'm learning patience. Because we'd all like to evolve so quickly, and my goodness, I just went through shingles and all sorts of things because I asked for it. I said I want to metamorphosize quicker, so I did. That's it, yeah. These parallel realities really closely align with one another. Alright? That's why you talk about the upper astral, the lower astral. What we refer to as the 4th dimension, which is this little spectrum here. Okay, we'll refer to that as the 4th. Okay, you have the lower astral, the upper astral. The people like Mr. Edwards, who does his crossing over talks, he talks to people just here, just on the lower bottom of the 4th. Okay, because that's people who have just passed over and they're still very close to this reality and haven't come to terms with actually going beyond that realm yet. They're caught in what's called the lower astral energies. Alright, so that's who they're talking to, just outside this reality in these areas here. Creation is big. It is really big, it is really vast. The life that exists beyond this one is enormous. It's more vast than you can really comprehend, and I'm just talking about this, our universe now. What this visually represents is the omniverse. What I showed you, what we refer to as creation, is our universe. Okay, and I did draw a line of boundary, meaning that's a border, meaning, okay, if that's a fence, then what's on the other side of that fence, okay? Well, this is what lies outside. When you enter the house of Christ and the Christed realm, and you can go get your consciousness to shoot all the way to the top, outside the spectrum of polarity, and you can get a little bit of a peek outside our universe, this is what you see. This is what's referred to as the omniverse. And what we have here is that grand sphere, or that ball that both science and creation both say everything came out of. The universe we refer to, and we are physically located, right, about here, and we are just one little dot. All those dimensional levels that we referred to before, and we talked about that we know as creation, is just one little speck in the whole grand omniverse. Out here is what we refer to as the source and the grand creation. It's absolutely colossal is the only word I can even come close to. It's enormous, colossal, huge. There just are no words that do it justice. Now I've just put dots there. There's a lot of the New Age movement teaches that there's beyond a certain level of reality there's no form. Okay, the source is just what is, and there's no form and nothing else exists. The energy that runs through all of this is that energy of what is. It's just the source. It's just raw energy. You can't think about it really, you just can't give it a name, or really it's just an energy that is. That's totally nameless, genderless, formless, the whole lot. All these other creations are, majority of them are what have happened before, and some are in the making. I've just drawn dots there because there's forms of existence which my brain does not comprehend. This brain I have here is very limited, and I can only present to you dots. You cannot describe what. When you're up in the higher dimensions, you have full understanding of what you're experiencing. When you come back down into this reality and you try to speak in this third dimension with a brain and a mouth and two eyes, which is made for this reality, it's a very difficult thing. The reason there's gaps, these bands spin at different, some spin that way, some spin that way, depending on the expression required by those universes themselves, the other universes. And there's gaps because some are waiting to be formed. Okay? Creation is big. And in there we call that the grand central universe. So life is far greater and far more wondrous than you ever first thought or imagined. It's huge, and we are part of something that is so great. When you look out there and you look at that cosmos at how big it is, and you think that's huge, and you feel there's no end to that, and it just goes on and on and on. And you know, once you get a peek outside this universe, then you really, wow, puts things into perspective for you. This is the grand myth. We're not going from this reality in a few years, we're going to the golden age where we'll be total gods in creation. We'll just be in kindergarten with all this, okay? Because the House of Christ has quite a big hierarchical structure in it, okay? So we'll be entering at the bottom of that structure basically, and then learning how to utilise the energy of waveform to create. We'll become creators ourselves in this new, which I'll explain later, the kind of devices we'll be using and the way we'll be living. And so once you go through the ranks and you work your way up through all the dimensional levels eventually, okay, we will be then given the opportunity to go outside magenta and begin our own universe and become a god in our own right. And that's what Thoth is already doing. Thoth had to come back inside. The intent of Thoth had to come back from outside in his own universe, because he's the architect of this universe, Lucifer. Thoth is Lucifer, by the way, okay? And he's got his own other universe happening outside, okay, in the same waveform format as this one. And he's come back in here now at this time and is incarnated here on the planet to help through this process. Okay, so eventually we will graduate through all the dimensional levels of the Christ, and we'll come out the top, pop out the top, and we'll have our own universe in creation, and we'll be our own God. That's the grand plan of creation.